We got a lot to talk about, and let's just dive right into the big Iowa football news amongst quite a bit of Iowa football shuffling of late with the spring transfer portal window open. Iowa has struck that man right there, George Barnett, who was one of the conductors of a nice turnaround up front for Iowa last season. Obviously, you give a lot of credit to Caleb Johnson, but you got to give a lot of credit to the guys up front paving the way for Caleb Johnson a season ago for morphing Iowa back into the rushing attack that I think Hawkeye fans are accustomed to. Chris, well, they have found a name to go ahead and familiarize yourself with. Bryce George, an All-American at Ferris State, a national champion 3 times over at Ferris State. 3 out of the past 4 years, Ferris State won the Division II national championship. Bryce George, come on down. And I know that you had a chance to dive into Bryce's tape. We wondered, you had kind of heard the rumblings that Iowa was going to be on the lookout for an offensive lineman or 2 or a couple of offensive linemen out of the transfer portal, but they've struck. They've landed Bryce George. What's your reaction to the newest addition to the Hawkeyes?
It's a huge pickup, man. I mean, you got to think about it, man. When I did my background on him, he reminded me of Mark Gronowski, just obviously not position-wise, but in the terms of what he's been able to do at his previous school, just being a multi-time winner. You know, anytime you bring a guy in like that, I don't care what level you're on, if you're able to be a key player on a winning team that consistently wins, that's saying something about your game. Now he's coming to the Hawkeyes where we lost a couple of, prominent linemen. God bless, we're going to get some back. But to have him, he could come in and be an impact player right away, even though we'll only have him for, 1 year. That 1 year, he could do a lot. And that 1 year for, especially, we're going to need an upgrade at the lineman, losing Caleb Johnson, to make room for Kamari Mole and Jazz Patterson in the gaps. He could be big time for that. Like, huge player, 6'5", 314. He chose us over, Cal and USC, so that's pretty big. And, 2-time All-American, that's pretty big right there. So, to have him, it'll be a good addition, and we'll see whether he'll be able to find his footing right away and be a key piece for us.
The one item you mentioned right there, I don't think is a small detail in all of this. To win out in this recruitment over really, both USC and Cal, but in particular USC, to win that now interconference recruiting battle for somebody that Iowa expects to come right in and help them. And Chris, I think it's fair to say the expectation is that Bryce George is coming to Iowa City, and the thought is that he's going to be a starting offensive tackle for the Hawkeyes. So to win that recruiting battle versus really, again, both USC and Cal, but especially heads up versus USC, that's big news for the Hawkeyes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll be able to see, man. And, you got to – it's going to be something for him just because at Ferris State, he was a right tackle. Right now, he's projected to be left tackle for us. So we're going to see how he fares out in that space. I'm sure that him being a 3-time national champion, he knows how to adjust. He knows that, when stuff hits the fan, he knows how to, adjust pretty quickly. And I'm sure that, coming to the Hawkeyes in the Big Ten, he's on one of the biggest stages, if not the biggest stage you could be on for football. He's not going to take that for granted. He's going to do whatever he can to be on the field, especially for his last year. And I'm sure for a guy like him, he wants to make his name known. He wants a chance to become pro. That's what most of these guys do it for. So, hopefully he can come in and just be a huge, huge boost to what we have lost this offseason. Not like we lost a ton, but, we had a big year last year in terms of the jump we made as an O-line. So hopefully he could add on to that. We could have a better year.
Ranked as a 3-star transfer portal pickup for, whatever that is worth out there for you. The number 39 offensive tackle, 546 player nationally, according to On3. And obviously, as you touched on, the thought is that he's probably your starting left tackle for Iowa. Now, it kind of depends on the person. Certain players, maybe it's a big time adjustment going from the right side to the left side. And for Iowa, if indeed Bryce George, who comes over from Ferris State, if he is your starting tackle, one of the two, Chris, then that sets it up to where either Jennings Dunker or Bryce George, one of the two, is moving to the left side, you would think, right? Because I don't see Jennings Dunker getting supplanted from a starting offensive tackle spot for Oklahoma, or for Iowa, excuse me. It'll be interesting to see, though, which of the two makes that shift over. And for different guys, it's maybe more challenging than for the other. So let's hope that for Bryce George, he's one of the types of players, Chris, to where it's not a big challenge for him to shift from the right side to the left side. Obviously, when you start thinking about trying to make money, you can make a lot of money by being a great left tackle.
Mm-hmm. They can make a lot of money in a lot of places in football these days, man. These kids are getting paid heavy, but yeah, you got to think, Jennings Dunker being such a key piece for us. I'm sure that he's not going to be the one that, Coach Ferentz or, whoever else wants to switch over. I'm sure, like I said, Bryce George is going to make the adjustment. He's coming here looking to start. He's going to do whatever he can to start. And, to have him, now you pair him up with, you brought Logan Jones back, Jennings Dunker, you got Bo Stevens. So to have those four and, whoever that fifth guy is, that's a pretty prominent old line we have. And you got to think about, how the offense is shaping up now. Now that you got yourself an old lineman, now you got Sam Phillips coming in, now you got a receiver, then you got two quarterbacks. The offense is shaping out to be, it's going to look pretty good. And maybe even just a better offense overall last year. Last year we made a jump, but it's probably nowhere near we want to be. So now the offense is looking good. And now you can add it to that, that run game where probably still going to be just as heavy as last year. You got to feel good about it. He's going to be a great addition, man. And he's a winner. So he should help us win. I see him being an impact player right away. No matter if he's on the right side, left side, he's going to be an impact player. And Hawkeye fans will see that come the fall.
Left tackle, right guard. Those are the two spots for Iowa that you're looking to replace starters. So now you start thinking about it, and Bo Stevens, Logan Jones, Cade Pieper is somebody that you hear a lot of good things about. And now Jennings Dunker. And this, the other part of this too is for Dotzler and for Trevor Luck, this buys you some more time with those two guys. And now there's not pressure on them to just get thrown into the fire of Big Ten football and for something to not go quite right. You're replacing Mason Richmond, who was a 4-year starter for the Hawkeyes, and you found somebody that can just plug right in and hopefully allow those guys, Chris, some time to continue developing and, protect that all-important blind side for Mark Gronowski and let him go be a playmaker for the Hawkeyes under center.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's really interesting that we were able to win him over USC. One being weather-wise. I mean, this is crazy. To choose a school like this where the winter time can be so brutal over Sunnyside, California, that's a big thing. I think it says a lot about, what the school stands for, what he really saw with the program. Not like weather matters to him too much, but also another thing is we are expected to have a very mobile quarterback in the backfield, along with, having a running back like Kamari Moulton, who gets compared to Aaron Jones. Don't forget that. So you got to think that to have someone like him who is quick to adjust, who is, like I said, a proven winner, to have him strengthen the run game as is already going to be strengthened with such dynamic legs behind the O-line, you got to feel good about, how the offense is going to shape out and just the mobility that's going to all the type of run sets we're going to use next year. I guess I could say more as I start looking at spring practice. We got some stuff coming up. We got the Kids Day event that's coming up, and that's something I'll really look out for. But, that's just the initial thoughts, man. There's not really too much to say, but it's exciting.
Let's hope that he's great, right? And again, I think it's a big time get for Iowa that you win out over USC and you address out of the transfer portal a position that probably you needed to buy. Maybe a little bit more time for a couple of left tackles in the program. You give Locke a little more time, Dotzler a little bit more time. And if there was some uneasiness from the staff about one of the most important positions in football, Chris, now in this revenue share era that you're entering into, left tackle has to be a position that you feel great about, right? Really both tackles, but left tackle you need to feel great about. I'm sure that Iowa has made a very significant investment in Gronowski, its quarterback, and so at a premium is protecting Gronowski and getting somebody that he feels comfortable on the left side of that offensive line. Looks like Iowa in a battle versus one of its Big Ten foes at USC. Looks like obviously they found that guy in Bryce George. So no small thing. And in, in this era of the transfer portal, Iowa is not going to be involved in trying to bring in 25, 30 guys each offseason, Chris, but they're going to find 7, 10, maybe as many in a given year as like a dozen. They're going to find 7 real impact players for them, and I think they found one of those guys right here in Bryce George. So it's a happy day for Hawkeye fans that they've been able to address a big need for him. Oh, by the way, not the only addition that Iowa has made. They also went ahead and, though obviously it's not going to be maybe as heralded, you went and got a long snapper, Bryant Worrell, who was a starting long snapper for Boston College. Again, you only know the long snapper if things go horrifically wrong, Chris. So let's hope that, Bryant Worrell celebrating with a Heroes trophy or another trophy game here mixed in. But let's hope, other than that, we're not talking about Bryant Worrell too much. Outside of, hey, special teams looks good and he's been sharp in it. But this is a addition that probably, understandably, is not going to get a ton of fanfare, but significant development for Iowa because they replaced somebody that, well, he was around for a long time and played a lot of football for the Hawkeyes.
Yes, he was, man. If anything, if you know Hawkeye football, we love our special teams for good or for worse, one reason or another. And to get Bryant Worrell, think about it, long snapper is not the most ideal position. Fans won't get as excited for, but he was a 5-star prospect coming out of high school. He was a 11th ranked long snapper in the class 2020. But he has had an interesting journey. He was at Old Dominion for 2 years. That's an FCS school, but for some reason didn't appear. Leave that as it is. But then he went to Emory and Henry, played 14 games across 2 seasons, made a name for himself, then went to Boston College, had a good season. He even got a fumble recovery last year. So I think that says a little something about him and his ability to, affect on a special teams level. Now he comes here, and after losing a guy like Luke Elkin, for those who don't know too much about Luke Elkin, he was with us for 4 years, and he was an All-American last year. He appeared in 53 games for the Hawkeyes across 4 seasons. Now he has pro aspirations. So, good luck to him on that. We'll certainly miss him. But then, we were left with, Ike Speltz, and we haven't seen too much of him yet. He's entering his redshirt freshman season. So, not like you can't trust him, but we definitely needed some experience in that field. So now to get this long snapper who should be effective for us, it's a very small but could be big addition in key moments. So we're going to see what that looks like.
And LeVar Woods and Iowa, we know, take great pride in the third phase of football. It's a part of the game where Iowa wins football games because they value that third phase in a way that a lot of other programs, their Big Ten counterparts, sometimes don't value as highly, right? Certainly the programs that are used to rolling in 4-star and 5-star talent on a regular basis out of the high school ranks. Iowa puts an emphasis on special teams, and so it's not a surprise to see that this would be one of the transfer portal additions for the Hawkeyes, but good news to go ahead and address the third phase, the Hawkeyes adding another transfer portal commitment. So not just Bryce George of late, but you got the Boston College long snapper Bryant Worrell as well, who again was the Eagles long snapper in all 13 games last season, and it replaces Luke Elkin, who had played in 53 games, was a rock for the Hawkeyes over the last 4 seasons at long snapper. And for Bryant Worrell, you get to come right in and be a part of some pretty good specialists alongside you. I mean, look, there's an all-timer that Reese Dakin is stepping in for last season in Torrey Taylor, and I thought did a pretty good job. Reese Dakin in his first year on campus, that Aussie pipeline to Iowa City just rolling right along. And obviously, Drew Stevens has been a solid kicker for the Hawkeyes. So a couple of good specialists that Bryant Worrell will get to work with hand in hand on a regular basis.
Of course. And, you know, the long snapper, like we touched on, not the most exciting position, but you got to think about how we were so passionate. Hawkeye fans are so passionate about Torrey Taylor, knowing that, you know, if our offense falls apart, we don't get to where we should on 4th down, you know, Torrey Taylor is going to set us up for success. Going to punt that ball within the 10 very consistently. Well, you got to think about the long snapper is setting the punter up for, you know, a successful punt. So to get a guy like him who will set up now Reese Dakin for successful punts, you know, hit him with accuracy, and so Reese Dakin could get our defense started all the way down on the other side of the field. You know, like we said, small addition, but could have a big impact in very key moments. So just look out for that. Special teams will be a little more exciting with this guy here.